We've all agreed you're no longer part of the family, my son wrote. Don't come to any gatherings. His wife even liked the message. I replied, thanks for confirming. I'll cancel all the auto payments. By evening, the group chat flooded with panic. 99 missed calls. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from, and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you my story. It started, as it so often did, with a phone call from Keisha. I was in my study, a room they all called my hobby room, looking out over the autumn bare trees of my property. I heard the phone ring, saw her name flash on the screen, and I let out a small tired sigh before answering. Her voice, as always, was a half octave too loud, a performance of confidence for an audience that wasn't there. Miriam, hi, she said, not so much a greeting as a prelude to a demand. I'm just finalizing the plans for Thanksgiving, and I need to know you're handling your assignments. I smiled. A thin, dry smile. Assignments, Keisha? I thought I was just bringing the sweet potato pie. Well, yes, that, she said, the word pie sounding like an insult, a quaint, folksy burden she was forced to endure. But I also emailed you the wine list. I need you to handle the champagne, and Miriam, please get the right one this time. It's a $500 bottle champagne, so don't get the cheap grocery store stuff again. It's embarrassing. I looked at the email she'd sent. It was less a list and more a ransom note of her extravagant, frankly tacky tastes. Keisha, I said, my voice calm and even, $500 a bottle seems excessive. Thanksgiving is about family, not flatware. I'd seen her list. She was demanding a new set of designer flatware because mine, the set I'd received as a wedding gift, was dated. It's what's expected, Miriam, she snapped. It's about maintaining a standard. Our friends, David's colleagues, they expect a certain level of, well, quality. Your generation just doesn't get it. Honestly, don't be cheap. It's just negative, and it brings the whole mood down. I sat in my custom-built, leather-upholstered office chair, in the study of my 10,000 square foot home, the home I had designed and built with my own money, and was being told not to be cheap by a 38-year-old woman who had never earned an independent dollar in her life. A woman who lived in a 5,000 square foot house in a gated community I paid the mortgage on. A woman who drove a Range Rover I paid the lease for. A woman whose entire standard was financed, automated and delivered, gift-wrapped from my central trust. The irony was so thick I could barely breathe. But this was the performance. This was the role I had chosen to play. The retired grandma. The quiet, out-of-touch, slightly judgmental matriarch who lived on her late husband's decent pension and just didn't get the modern world of her successful high-flying children. I will see what I can do, Keisha, I said, the words tasting like ash. See that you do, she said, and hung up. Not a goodbye, not a thank you, just a click. The sound of a superior hanging up on a subordinate. I sat there for a long time, looking at the phone. This charade, this 20-year test was becoming very, very tiresome. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It wasn't a call but a notification from the Sterling family group chat, a chat I had created years ago, hoping for pictures of the grandkids and notes of I love you. Now it was mostly a wasteland of Keisha's bragging, Tamara's passive-aggressive emojis, and David's big announcements about his career. I opened it. There was a new message, a long block of text. It was from my son David. My heart, despite everything, gave a small hopeful flutter. Maybe he was writing to apologize for Keisha's behavior. Maybe he was writing to say he was excited to see me for Thanksgiving. I read the text. Mom, just to let you know, Keisha and I have discussed it with Tamara and Greg. We've all agreed you're no longer part of the family. Your negativity is just not welcome. Don't come to Thanksgiving or any future gatherings. I read the words once, then twice, then a third time, the letters seeming to blur and rearrange themselves, refusing to make sense. We've all agreed. Tamara and Greg, my daughter, my quiet, gentle Tamara, and her husband Greg, a man I had personally saved from bankruptcy, they had agreed to this. You're no longer part of the family. Not we're angry, not we need space. No longer part of the family. An excommunication. And the reason, my negativity, the negativity of questioning $500 champagne, the negativity of living quietly, of not validating Keisha's endless screaming hyena laugh of materialism. The negativity of being a mirror they didn't want to look into. The pain was a physical thing. It was sharp, cold, and precise, right under my breastbone. This wasn't Keisha. This wasn't an outsider. This was David, my son, the boy I had sat up with when he had pneumonia, the boy I had taught to read, to ride a bike, the man whose entire life I had personally, secretly, and lovingly curated. He had just deleted me. He had fired his own mother from the family. I thought of all the sacrifices, the long nights, the lonely years after his father died, when I was building my company. I did it all for them, to give them a life I never had, a life of ease and opportunity. I had given them everything, and in return, they had given me this, a text message, a pink slip. Don't come to any gatherings. I felt the mother in me, the soft, forgiving, hopeful part that I had clung to for 70 years. Just die. It didn't shrivel. It didn't fade. It snapped. It was a cold, clean break. The pain was still there, but it was no longer grief. It was an iceberg, cold, hard, and moving with an unstoppable, clarifying weight. I was still staring at the phone, my breath fogging the screen, the world narrowing to that small, bright rectangle of betrayal. And then I saw it. It was a detail so small, so petty, so Keisha that it was almost comical. It was the final vicious little twist of the knife. Underneath David's message, there was a small heart icon, and next to it, the text, Keisha loved this message. She hadn't just co-signed the message. She hadn't just agreed to it. She loved it. This was a victory for her. She had finally won. She had successfully, and with the full agreement of the entire family, banished the negative, cheap old woman who was a drag on her fabulous life. She was celebrating. I could picture her on my sofa, in my house, sipping my wine, showing the phone to David with a triumphant, venomous smile. See? We're free. I set the phone down on my desk. The iceberg of pain didn't melt. It solidified. The mother was gone. The hurt, grieving, hopeful woman was gone. And the person who was left, well, the person who was left was someone they had never ever met. They think I'm just mom. They think I'm retired Grandma Miriam, living off my late husband's decent pension. My husband, God rest his soul, was a wonderful man. He was a high school history teacher. He left me his love, his 2 beautiful children, and exactly $5,400 in his savings account. He was a good man, but he was not a rich one. I am the rich one. My name is Miriam Stone. I am the founder, 100% shareholder, and despite my retirement, the acting CEO of Stone Logistics, one of the largest private shipping and logistics corporations in the country. We have 4,000 employees, a fleet that covers 17 states, and annual revenues that would make Keisha's head spin. My hobby room is the central office from which I manage a portfolio that includes real estate, tech, and most importantly, the entire fragile and completely artificial ecosystem of my children's lives. I looked at the text message again. No longer part of the family. They had no idea what family meant. They had no idea what it cost. They had just fired their benefactor. They had just excommunicated their bank. And Keisha loved it. A cold, quiet, calculating calm settled over me. This wasn't a family drama anymore. This was a business decision. I did this to them. I have to admit that, this arrogance, this blindness, I cultivated it. I am the one who built the greenhouse where their entitlement was allowed to grow so lush and toxic. It had all started 20 years ago. I had just sold my first patent, a logistics tracking software I'd designed in my basement for a sum that was at the time unimaginable. David was in college, and Tamara was just starting high school. I saw the children of my new, wealthy peers. I saw the trust fund babies. They were useless, drifting, unhappy creatures, their lives a boring parade of boats, cars, and rehab stints. They had no drive, no purpose, no character, and I had vowed, not my children. So I created a test, an illusion. I didn't just give them money. I built a world for them. I set up subsidiary companies under the Stone Logistics umbrella, Stone Realty, Sterling Imports, small manageable firms. When David graduated with his C-average business degree, I hired him at Stone Realty. I gave him a title, VP of Acquisitions. I gave him a corner office. I gave him a salary. I let him negotiate deals where I secretly owned both sides of the table. I let him climb a corporate ladder that was a prop, held in place by my hands. I did the same for Tamara, who had a good heart but no spine. I put her in marketing at Sterling Imports, and then her husband Greg, a man with a failed startup and a mountain of debt. I hired him too. I absorbed his debt as a signing bonus. I let them buy their first houses. They'd come to me, nervous. Mom, We found a place but we're struggling for the down payment. I'd loan them the money. A loan I would then forgive as a performance bonus from their jobs. Then, when Keisha came along, with her endless voracious appetite, the demands grew. A bigger house, a gated community, that house. I approved the mortgage. I was the bank. I let them earn their success. I let them believe, truly, deeply, that they were self-made, that they were the brilliant, high-flying executives they pretended to be at their dinner parties. The test was simple. Would they, in the midst of all this success, remember me? Would they remain humble? Would they be grateful? Would they, even once, turn around, see me in my simple life, and say, "Thank you, Mom, let me help you"? The test had now officially concluded, and they had failed. Miserably. They hadn't just forgotten me, they had banished me. They had looked at their creator, the source of their entire world, and found her negative. The illusion of their success, I murmured to the empty room, was my greatest failure. The test was a failure. The only thing left to do was decommission the experiment. I turned to my laptop, not the one I used for browsing recipes, but my work laptop, the encrypted matte black machine that connected me to my central server. I logged into the secure portal for the Stone Family Trust. This was the engine room, the dashboard where I, the retired grandma, played God. My eyes scanned the list of automated payments scheduled to go out tomorrow, November 1st. My children were, if anything, creatures of habit. They had all foolishly aligned their major life expenses with the first of the month, the day after their stipends, which they called salaries, were deposited. My finger hovered over the mouse. Here was their entire beautiful, successful, self-made life, all itemized in cold, hard digital numbers. Payment: David and Keisha Sterling. Mortgage: The Enclave, gated community, $12,500 mall. I remembered Keisha bragging to me about the amazing rate David had personally negotiated. I had to stifle a laugh. He'd negotiated with me. Payment: David and Keisha Sterling, Mercedes-Benz S-Class lease, $1,900 mo. Payment: David and Keisha Sterling, Range Rover lease, $1,900 mo. Because, as Keisha had explained, she needed an SUV for the kids. They had none, and he needed a professional sedan. Payment: Tamara and Greg Miller, mortgage, downtown Artists Loft condo, $18,200 mo. My artistic daughter who hadn't painted in a decade. Payment: Tamara and Greg Miller, BMW X7 lease, $1,900 mo. Payment: Oak Ridge Academy tuition payment, Miller twins, $35,000 semester. Greg and Tamara's children, my grandchildren. This one hurt. But the school wouldn't kick them out tomorrow. They would just humiliate their parents. A lesson in consequences. Payment: The Ashford Club family membership dues, $4,100 mo. This was Keisha's domain, her throne room, the place she held court, and complained about her cheap mother-in-law. Stipend: D. Sterling, VP, Stone Realty, $25,000 mo. His salary. Stipend: T. Miller, Marketing Mag Story, Sterling Imports, $20,000 mo. Her salary. The total was breathtaking. I did a quick mental sum, over $100,000 a month. I was pouring over $1 million a year into their lives, and in return I was no longer part of the family. I was negative. I was cheap. The arrogance, the blindness, the sheer profound stupidity, it was staggering. They hadn't just bitten the hand that fed them. They had tried to saw it off at the shoulder. I looked at the dashboard, the list of payments, the financial blood transfusion that was keeping their artificial lives on support. I looked at my phone, the text message, "We've all agreed," the cold, clinical cruelty of it, the unity of their betrayal. I picked up the phone. My thumb hovered over the group chat. There was no more pain. There was no more sadness. There was just clarity. The mother was gone. The CEO was here. This was not a family matter. This was a hostile takeover. A non-productive, toxic asset class was draining resources from the parent company. You don't get emotional. You don't cry. You liquidate. You cut the losses. I thought about the wording. I could have been cruel. I could have been vicious. I could have listed their every failing. But that would have been emotional. That would have been Mom. The CEO is not emotional. The CEO is efficient. I typed one simple, clean, devastatingly polite sentence. A sentence that was not an accusation but a simple confirmation of their new reality. Thanks for confirming. I'll cancel all the auto payments. I hit send. A single blue check mark. then 2. Then all of them. Delivered. I put the phone down on the desk. A profound, almost giddy sense of relief washed over me. I felt light. The 20-year-long performance of Just Mom was over. The test was done. I was finally free of the crushing burden of their entitlement. I had just saved my company $1.2 million a year. It was a sound business decision. I turned back to my laptop. I clicked a single red button on the trust dashboard. Halt all payments, read David Sterling. A confirmation box popped up. Are you sure? I clicked yes. I did the same for Tamara. Halt all payments, Ray. Tamara Miller. Click. Yes. The engine was off. The life support was unplugged. The lights wouldn't go out all at once. But they would. Oh, they would. Tomorrow morning when they woke up in their self-made lives, they would find that the bank, the landlord and their employer had all vanished because the bank, the landlord and their employer were all me, and I was, as they had requested, no longer part of the family. I didn't close the group chat app. I watched. I'm a CEO, and I was observing the immediate market reaction to my decision. The first thing that happened, the small heart icon next to Keisha loved this message vanished. Keisha had unloved the message. The victory dance was over. The first cold, slithering tendril of panic had begun to touch her. Then, the read receipts populated. One by one, read by David. Read by Tamara. Read by Greg. Silence. A deep, profound, digital silence. It was 5:30 p.m. They were all just getting home from their jobs, no doubt complaining about the traffic in their leased luxury cars. Then the first sign of life. The bubble next to David's name. It appeared. It danced. It disappears. He was typing, then deleting. He didn't know what to say. He was trying to calculate the blast radius. The bubble appeared for Tamara. Danced. Disappeared. The bubble for Keisha danced. Disappeared. They were all staring at their phones. The same cold panic dawning on them. Auto payments? What auto payments? Keisha was probably thinking, her mind small and literal. The utilities, the Netflix account. But David knew. Tamara knew. They knew their salaries weren't real. They knew deep down that their mortgages weren't normal. They knew in that terrified, unspoken part of their brains that Mom was connected to everything. The silence stretched. 1 minute. 5 minutes. The silence of people on a frozen lake, hearing the first distant crack of the ice. Then the first tentative message. From David. Mom, what does that mean? A few seconds later from Tamara. Mom? I don't understand. What auto payments? Then, from Keisha. Miriam, if you're talking about the champagne, that is incredibly petty. I smiled. She still didn't get it. She was still, bless her tiny materialistic heart, talking about champagne while her entire world was about to be repossessed. I looked at the messages. I looked at their panicked, pathetic questions. And I did the most powerful thing I could possibly do. I went to the group chat settings. I hit mute notifications. I stood up from my desk, my back straight, my mind clear for the first time in years. I walked out of my study, into my large, quiet, paid-for kitchen and decided to make myself a cup of very expensive, very real tea. They could figure it out. They were, after all, no longer part of the family. They were on their own. The silence from my phone was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. I let the phone sit, muted, on the corner of my desk. The silence in my study was absolute, broken only by the quiet ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. The first frantic volley of their confusion had ended. Now the real panic would begin. They were rats in a maze, and they had just realized the walls were electrified. I picked up my other phone, my business line. This wasn't a family matter. Yet. This was a financial one. I dialed the direct line of my CFO, Gerald. Gerald has been with me for 30 years. He was a young, hungry accountant when I was still running Stone Logistics out of a leased warehouse. He knew every dollar I'd ever made, every shell company I'd ever built, and every allowance I'd ever paid. He was, to put it mildly, not a fan of my children. He picked up on the first ring, as he always does. Miriam. Gerald, I said, my voice calm. It's time. There was a pause on the other end, not of confusion but of satisfaction. Protocol Alpha, I presume? He asked, his voice smooth and professional. Protocol Alpha, I confirmed. Freeze the family stipends. Yes, all of them, David and Tamara, and halt all third-party payments from the trust. Mortgages, tuitions, clubs, Everything. Effective immediately. Immediately, he echoed. I could hear the faint, rapid click-clack of his keyboard. He was already in the system. David's Stone Realty account. Suspended. Tamar's Sterling Imports account. Suspended. Ashford Club dues. Halted. The Mercedes and BMW leases. Halted. The mortgages for the Enclave and the downtown condo. Miriam, are you certain? The banks will move to default within 30 days. I'm certain, Gerald, I said. They have, as a family, voted me out. I am simply honoring their decision. Another pause. This one with a hint of dry humor. Ah! I see. A full excommunication. And they chose to do this before the first of the month. The arrogance is truly breathtaking. Isn't it? I said. Now, Gerald, one item must be handled with discretion. The grandchildren. The twins. The payment to Oak Ridge Academy. Already flagged, Miriam, he said. You want me to set up the Anonymous Educational Trust? This is why I've kept him for 30 years? Exactly. I want the school to get their money, but I want it to come from a new untraceable legal entity. But not yet. I want the reversal to hit their parents' account first. I want Tamara and Greg to receive the default notice from the school. I want them to feel that panic. Let them sweat for 24 hours. Then the Anonymous Scholarship Fund can miraculously save the day. The children will be fine. Their parents, however, are about to have a very, very bad day. A lesson in consequences, Gerald said, the sound of a smile in his voice. I'll handle it, personally. The reversal is processing now. The tuition payment will bounce by 9 a.m. tomorrow. The credit cards, Keisha's specifically, will cease to function around 10:30 a.m., mid-brunch, I should think. I smiled. Gerald, you are a poet. No, Miriam, he replied, the clicking stopping. I'm just a very good accountant, and I've been waiting 20 years to balance this ledger. Consider it done. I hung up. The order was given. The CEO had acted. I felt nothing. Not regret. Not joy. Just the quiet, simple piece of a problem, long deferred, finally being solved. I turned off my business phone. I looked at my muted personal phone, which was now lighting up, a silent, frantic disco of notifications. I ignored it. I walked out of my study and into my living room, put on a Vivaldi record, and for the first time in a long, long time, I began to read a book, and I did not feel one single shred of guilt. The next morning the sun rose on a beautiful crisp November 1st. It was the kind of day that made the wealthy feel good about their lives. My daughter Tamara was part of that ritual. She loved the school run. She loved pulling her gleaming Miriam paid-for white BMW X7 into the perfect brick-paved circle of the Oak Ridge Academy, the most exclusive and obscenely expensive private school in the state. She loved nodding to the other perfect moms, all in their matching Lilin, and their Escalades, all beneficiaries of their husbands' or, like her, their mother's success. It was a performance of casual, effortless wealth. She pulled her 8-year-old twins Chloe and Max from the car. They were adorable in their little plaid uniforms, a uniform that cost more than my first car. Have a good day, babies, she chirped, kissing their heads. Mrs. Miller? A word, please. Tamara froze. That was the voice of Mrs. Gable, the headmistress. A woman Tamara secretly hated. A woman she always said was stuffy and judgmental. Mrs. Gable was standing on the top step, her face a mask of polite professional concern. Mrs. Gable, good morning, Tamara said, forcing a bright smile. Is there a problem? Perhaps we should step into my office, Mrs. Gable said, her eyes glancing at the other mothers who were now unsubtly watching. Oh, I'm sure it's fine. I'm in a hurry. What's... Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Gable said, her voice dropping. I'm so sorry, but the payment for this semester's tuition, it was reversed this morning. Tamara's smile twitched. What? A reversal? That's impossible. It's an auto payment. My husband handles all that. It must be a bank error. I'll call him right now. She fumbled for her phone, still smiling, still performing for the other moms. Mrs. Gable did not smile back. The bank was quite clear, ma'am. The message on the reversal was account holder stop payment. It was not an error. It was a deliberate action, and I'm afraid the board policy is very strict. The children's balance is now $35,000 overdue. They can't attend class until the balance is settled. The blood drained from Tamara's face. The other mothers were now openly staring. You can't be serious. You're You're expelling them. Over a bank error? It's not an expulsion, Mrs. Miller. It's a payment hold. I'm so sorry. Mrs. Gable gestured to the twins, who were looking up confused. They'll have to return with you. The humiliation was total. Tamara, the perfect mom in front of her entire social circle, was being turned away. Exposed as a deadbeat. Fine, fine, she hissed, her face burning. She grabbed her phone and tried to open her banking app. I'll pay it right now. It's just a mix-up. She tried to log in. Password incorrect. She tried again. Account suspended. She tried her personal debit card on the school's payment portal. Insufficient funds. Her salary, her $20,000 monthly stipend, had not been deposited. Her entire world crumbled. She grabbed her crying, confused children by the hand, put them back in the BMW and peeled out of the school driveway, her face a mask of tears and rage. The perfect moms watched her go, their eyes cold and judgmental. The united front that had agreed to banish me was the first to fall. At 11:00 a.m., the Ashford Club was in full swing. This was Keisha's throne room, her office. This was where she held court, drank mimosas and cemented her status as the queen bee of the gated community. She was at her favorite large round table by the window, holding court with her squad of 6 other important women. And today she was bragging. You all just have to be firm, she was saying, her voice loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear. She was basking in the glow of her victory. David and we finally had to set a hard boundary with his mother. It was just so toxic. You have no idea the constant negativity, the judging, it was affecting our mental health. So, we did it. We had to, cut her off. For the good of the family. The other women, all rivals masquerading as friends, nodded, their eyes wide. Keisha, that's so brave, one said. I wish I could do that with my mother-in-law. I know, right? Keisha said, taking a delicate sip of her mimosa. But at some point you have to choose your own happiness. The brunch was long, lavish and filled with Keisha's pronouncements. Finally, the bill came. It was $650. Keisha, with a dramatic, magnanimous flourish, pulled out her black Amex. The one she called her unlimited card. The one that was, of course, a corporate card from Stone Realty, paid in full, every month, by my trust. This one's on me, girls, she said. The waiter, a young man named Ben, whom she'd been rude to all morning, more mimosas, Ben, and try to be quick this time, took the card. He returned a few minutes later, his face pale. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Sterling. This card has been declined. Keisha's smile froze. What? That's ridiculous. Run it again. Your machine is broken. I've run it 3 times, Mom, Ben stammered. It just says cardholder account suspended. Suspended? Keisha laughed. A high, brittle sound. That's absurd. David probably just forgot something. Fine. She huffed, annoyed, and dug in her purse for her other Amex. Her personal one. Try this. Ben took it. He came back. Declined, ma'am. Cardholder not found. Keisha was no longer smiling. Her face was turning a blotchy red. What is going on? She hissed. Fine. Just my debit card. This is ridiculous. She shoved her debit card at him. He ran it. He returned, looking like he wanted to die. Mrs. Sterling, insufficient funds. The table was silent. The 6 other women were watching, their eyes no longer impressed but cold and amused. One of her friends, the one who had always been her rival, smiled a tiny cold smile. Oh dear, don't worry, Keisha. I'll get this one. Keisha, the queen, the brave one, the woman of standards, was a fraud. She had just been exposed in her own throne room, as a charity case. She couldn't even buy her friends lunch. She fled the club, her face burning, leaving her squad to whisper. Her world was over. David, my son, was having the best day of his career. He was at La Vigne, the city's most obnoxiously expensive French steakhouse. A place where a single lunch cost more than most people's car payments. This was his spot. The place he brought men he wanted to impress. Today he was impressing 2 venture capitalists from Chicago. He was pitching them on his new venture, a vanity real estate project. A gaudy glass and steel monstrosity of a high-rise he wanted to build. It was a project I had personally reviewed and refused to fund, calling it a monument to bad taste and worse financials. Now he was trying to get other people to pay for it, using his success at Stone Realty as proof of his genius. As you can see from my portfolio, he was saying, swirling a $300 bottle of wine, my returns at Stone Realty have been, frankly, astounding. The VCs nodded impressed. David's portfolio, of course, was the series of fake sweetheart deals I had set up for him. I'm ready to move into the next phase of my career, David said, leaning in. And I'm personally capitalizing the seed round. I'm putting in $500,000 of my own skin. The VCs looked very impressed. A $500,000 personal investment. David was a player. He smiled, feeling their respect. It was the moment he lived for. Right then his phone set on the white tablecloth buzzed. It was a bank alert. He glanced at it, annoyed by the interruption. Alert, your business line of credit, Act 77-1 has been frozen. He blinked. Frozen? That was his operating capital. That was everything. He felt a cold prickle of sweat on his neck. He tried to smile at the VCs. Excuse me, gentlemen. Just a minor, back-office fire. He picked up the phone. A second alert. This one, an email was flashing on his screen. It was from his office manager, a woman who was in reality on my personal payroll. Subject, urgent. Payroll notice. Mr. Sterling, as per the parent company's directive. Stone Logistics, all payroll accounts for the Stone Realty subsidiary have been indefinitely suspended. All corporate accounts are frozen. We are unable to process payroll. Please advise. David's world stopped. His company, his employees, his salary, it was all just off. He looked at the VCs who were now watching him, their expressions no longer impressed but appraising. He fumbled with his phone, his hands shaking. He tried to open his personal banking app, the one where his $25,000 stipend should have landed that morning. Account Longan, account suspended, please contact your administrator. Administrator? He didn't have an administrator. He didn't understand. David? Everything all right? One of the VCs asked, his voice now cool. Yes, fine. David stammered, just a server issue. Now about that $500,000. About that, the other VC said, folding his napkin. I think we need to see a more concrete proof of funds before we continue this conversation. It seems you're having server issues. They stood up. The deal was dead. David was left alone at the table with a $700 lunch bill and a stack of credit cards that he now knew with dawning, stomach-dropping horror were just useless pieces of plastic. His self-made life, his portfolio, his new venture, it had all evaporated in the middle of a $300 lunch. He was a fraud, and the VCs knew it. His reputation, the only thing he actually had, was gone. It was 4:30 p.m. I was in my kitchen preparing a simple, elegant meal for one. A piece of grilled salmon, some asparagus. The house was quiet. Vivaldi was playing softly. My personal phone, still muted, was sitting on the granite countertop, lighting up like a Christmas tree. I had given them the whole day to stew in their own private, isolated hells. I had let them hit the walls of their new reality alone. Now it was time to observe the results. I picked up the phone. I unmuted the Sterling family group chat. It was a waterfall. A digital avalanche of pure, uncut panic. The silence from the night before had been replaced by a cacophony of shrieking terror and blame. It had started as I'd expected with my daughter. Tamara, Mom, what's going on? The school just humiliated me. They sent the kids home. They said the tuition was reversed. Greg is calling the bank. He can't get through. Call me. Tamara, Mom, this isn't funny. Mrs. Gable looked at me like I was trash. You did this. Tamara, please call me. I'm begging you. Then Keisha had chimed in, right around 11:30 a.m. after her disastrous brunch. Keisha, what did you do? My cards are off. Turn them back on. This isn't funny. Keisha, I'm not apologizing, Miriam. You're being childish. This is illegal. I'm calling a lawyer. Keisha, David. Tell your mother to stop this. Dave. Then Greg, Tamara's spineless husband, had apparently tried to use his card. Greg, Miriam, this is insane. My card was just declined at the gas station. Tamara is crying. You're stressing her out. You need to fix this. This is not how a family behaves. The irony. This is not how a family behaves. I let out a small laugh. And then, David. His messages had started around 1:30 p.m. right after his deal had imploded. His texts were short, sharp, and laced with a terror that was rapidly overtaking his anger. David, call me. Now. David. Pick up the phone. David, what did you do? What did you do to my accounts? This is my company, my money. David, Mom, I swear to God you better not have touched my business line. David, Keisha just called me. The club? The cars? What auto payments? What auto payments? Mom? Tamara, David, she shut everything off. The mortgage, Greg's card, the school. David, shut up. Tamara, I'm handling it. Keisha, handling it? You're not handling anything. You let your crazy old mother ruin our lives. This is your fault. David, my fault. You're the one who loved the message. I watched them turn on each other. The united front that had all agreed was now a circular firing squad. The test wasn't just a failure, it was a rout. They weren't a family, they were a loose confederation of parasites, and I had just set their host on fire. The last message in the chat, the one that summed it all up, was from David, sent just minutes before I unmuted. David, I'm coming over. We are settling this. You've made your point. This stops now. He thought this was a lesson. He thought this was a tantrum. He still, after all this, thought he was in charge. The arrogance was, as Gerald had said, truly breathtaking. As if on cue, the phone started ringing. The group chat had failed. Now came the individual, desperate assaults. The screen lit up. David. I looked at it. I let it ring, and ring, and ring, until it clicked over to voicemail. A second later it lit up again. Tamara. I let it ring. Voicemail. A second after that. Keisha. I almost laughed. I let that one ring too. Voicemail. And so it began. For the next 2 hours, my phone was a strobe light. David, Tamara, Greg, Keisha, David again. Tamara, crying. David, screaming. Keisha, hysterical. It didn't stop. The notification badge on my voicemail icon climbed. 22. I let them ring. I let them plead to my digital answering machine. I finished my salmon, put my plate in the dishwasher, and poured a small glass of very good, very old port. I sat in my quiet living room, Vivaldi playing, and I finally at 7:00 p.m. decided to listen to the story of their day. I pressed play on the first voicemail. It was David from hours ago. Angry, arrogant. Mom, I don't know what game you're playing, but it's over. You've made your point. You're not negative. You're a child. Call me back in the next 5 minutes, or I am coming over to... Beep. I deleted it. The next one. Tamara. Crying. As I'd expected. Mom? Mom? Please. Please. What's happening? The school, they kicked the twins out. In front of everyone. Mom? I'm so scared. What did you do? Did you not pay? Was it a mistake? Please call me. Greg is, he's just yelling. Beep. I deleted it. The next one. Keisha. Her voice was not the calm, superior tone from the phone call. It was a high-pitched, nasal shriek. Miriam, you turn my cards back on. Right now, you have no right. This is theft. David is calling his lawyer. You are a bitch. A crazy, jealous, old, beep. I saved that one. I skipped ahead an hour. Another one from David. The arrogance was gone. The anger was cracked, revealing the raw, weeping panic beneath. Mom, please. Okay, I'm sorry. We're sorry. Keisha is sorry. She didn't mean it. None of us did. It was a joke. A stupid joke. Mom, please. The bank just called. They're talking about the mortgage. They're talking about foreclosure. Mom, that's my house. My house. Interesting. I deleted it. I skipped to the last one, time-stamped just 1 minute ago. It was David again. His voice was a broken, unrecognizable whisper. Mom, I'm at the gate. We're all here. Tamara and Greg are here. Keisha's here. We just want to talk. Please. We brought Thai, your favorite, from the good bakery, please. Mom, just open the gate. We're no longer part of the family? Okay, you're right. We're sorry. We're so sorry. Please, Mom, we're nothing without you. Please. We're nothing without you. The words I had longed to hear for 20 years. The words of gratitude, of acknowledgement, and they finally came. Not in love, but in terror. Not in respect, but in utter groveling financial desperation. The test was a failure, but the result was finally the truth. My intercom buzzed. They were here. My intercom buzzed again. A long, desperate, insistent peal. I walked from my living room, port glass in hand, to the large video monitor in my kitchen. I pressed the view button, and there they were. The united front. All four of them crowded under the harsh white light of the security camera, bundled in their expensive coats. They looked small. David was in front, his face pale and haggard. He was holding up a pie box like a pathetic offering. Beside him, Keisha's face was a ruin of blotchy, smeared makeup. She was shivering, whether from cold or rage, I couldn't tell. And behind them, Tamara and Greg, huddled together like orphans in a storm. Tamara had clearly been crying for hours. I pressed the talk button. My voice was calm, clear, and amplified by the gate's powerful speaker. David. All four of them flinched, as if struck. "Mom," David said, rushing forward, his voice cracking with a desperate false joy. "Mom, thank God. We were so worried. We've been calling. Look, we're sorry. We're so sorry. It was a joke, Mom. A stupid, terrible joke. Keisha made us do it." Tamara blurted out from the back, her voice thick with tears. "Tamara, shut up," Keisha hissed, shooting her a look of pure venom. "We're all sorry, Miriam," Keisha said, forcing her voice into a sycophant's coo. We love you. We want you at Thanksgiving. Of course we do. We just miss you." The lie was so bald, so pathetic, it was almost insulting. I took a sip of my port. I let the silence hang, let them shiver in the cold November night, outside the gates of the home they had never been invited into. "Mom," David said, his voice now a child's plea, "please, just open the gate. Let us in. We'll fix this. Whatever you want. We'll pay you back. Just turn the accounts back on, please. The bank, they're going to take my house." "That's interesting, David," I said, my amplified voice cutting through the night. "A few things. First, it is not and has never been your house. It is my house. Second, we will not be fixing this." What do you mean?" Greg stammered. "I mean," I said, "that I received your text message, the one you all agreed on. You said I am no longer part of the family. I have accepted those terms. Your request has been processed." "No." David slammed his fist on the intercom box. "No, you can't. You're our mother." "I was your mother," I replied, my voice as cold as the steel gate in front of them. "Now I am simply the CEO of the corporation you all just, very publicly and very stupidly, resigned from. Your allowances, your perks, your salaries, they have been terminated, effective immediately. As you are no longer family, you are of course no longer employees." But, the grandkids?" Tamara wailed. "The school, you wouldn't." "The children will be fine," I said, cutting her off. "Their tuition will be handled by an anonymous scholarship fund I created this morning. They will not suffer for the sins of their parents. You, however, are another matter." I looked at their four panicked, furious, broken faces on the screen. The son who betrayed me, the daughter who let him, the spouse who cheered. "David?" I said, my voice softening, just a fraction. "Yes, Mom," he said, hope surging into his voice. "I'm afraid I'm having a small family gathering tonight, and, well," I let the pause hang, twisting the knife he had tried to stick in me. "You're just not welcome." I cut the intercom feed. Their faces vanished from the screen. I watched on the silent security monitor as David stared at the box, uncomprehending. He shouted. He slammed his fists on the steel. Keisha was screaming at him. Tamara collapsed onto the curb, sobbing. Greg just stood there, holding his head. I went back to my desk. I opened the family group chat. They were already texting, a frantic string of "she's not opening the gate," and "what do we do?" I typed one last thing. "You are all adults, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Goodbye." I then went to David's contact. I blocked him. Keisha blocked. Tamara blocked. Greg blocked. I deleted the group chat. I turned back to my Vivaldi, finished my port, and for the first time in 20 years my house was truly beautifully and blessedly quiet.